Okay, so welcome. This is the second part of our feature on Lithuanian beers. Second, we've got some brewing going on here. Let's see if we can. We've got an echo. Is that better? Yeah, I think that seems okay. So 1 second, let me do this and then we'll get going. So we're having our second part on the Lithuanian beers this week. Last week, as you know, or 2 weeks ago, because we were postponed, Lars gave us an introduction on the history, the culture, the type of beers, and why Lithuania managed to preserve those as uniquely in Europe, and why they're able to still get farmhouse beers in Lithuania. So this week, Simonas is going to go through with us, and he's going to pick 3 beers that he's brewed in Dundulis, and he's going to go through with the people here on exactly how he brewed them, the history of where they would have come from, how he brewed them, how maybe that might vary a little bit compared to the original farmhouse, and that's the idea. So as the same last time, we have a Q&A column over there. If you have questions, just throw them in there and either vote, put in your own question or vote for one if it's one you already wanted, and that way we'll be able to filter them out. But we have our panel here again. We have Christina, we have Richard from Black Donkey, and Mortis from Canvas should be joining us. And Lars is here as well. So hopefully between that, they'll be able to get a lot of the questions, and they have a sample of the beers. So it should be pretty interesting. So on that, I think I'll pass it over to you, Simonas, if that's okay.
Okay. So first of all, I think I need to talk about real brewing, farmhouse brewing. So I will show you presentation of how people brew originally in countryside in Lithuania. So I am uploading now this presentation. Can you see it or still not?
Not yet.
Okay, so we will wait for. So this would be like some more illustrations, and I will speak about these illustrations and comment what the people are doing in that, and you will see the view of the brew house or the brewing process. So it's better one time to see than 10 times to hear about it. So the presentation is still loading.
Okay, that's a little bit slow, but go on.
Yeah, it's because I'm in my countryside and there is some internet. It's very slow, but I think it will upload soon.
If there's a problem, I know you sent it to me, so I can upload it for you. If we just give it another minute.
Yeah, okay. Have it by your hand, maybe you can do it.
I'll do that. So I'll try and do that. Just find it here. I had it just a moment ago. Just a moment because I checked. Here it is. Okay, I'll move it along for you as you talk.
Okay, so this is just first slide. Okay, so you can move to another slide. So this is like brewing regions of Lithuania where this brewing tradition is survived. So Lithuania is quite small country, but we can see what the north of Lithuania is this brewing tradition is still alive, and mostly most of the brewers are in this Birch and Pasvalys yellow region. So if we could go to the next slide, and another slide. Yeah, so this is like the key features of Lithuanian Farmhouse brew. So, the beer is, the ales are not boiled raw ales, which are rich in protein, so it's good for your stomach and you can eat. It's like a food. These brewers are using local unmodified malts, and they are producing their own malts. So the brewing process usually starts from making the young malts. So all the brewers also, most of the brewers are using local hops, and the feature of one of the key features of Lithuanian Farmhouse brew is boiling the hop tea, because the beer is unboiled, so you need to introduce the hops to the beer, so you need to boil the hop tea. Also, one of the key features is using local yeast, which are still survived from, I don't know, ancient times. Fermentation is very rapid and in high temperatures. If 25 Celsius is low temperature, and we call it cool fermenting. So usually, mostly we ferment up under 37, 35, like mother milk temperature. And the beer is high in carbonization, as you can see in this image. So we can go to another slide. So that is how looks the equipment. Actually, in this slide we can see like two breweries, because you need to, if you want to you need to two vessels if you want to brew, mostly. So you need to mash tun. This is like simple tun, usually made from wood, and Lautering, which is that one with the stick in it, and fermentation vat. Sometimes mostly the mash tun is used for fermentation, and if you make for example, you can make two beers at one brewing process. You can make weak beer and more stronger. So you can use two vats, one for weaker ale, one for stronger, and other equipment which is like shovel, buckets, and so on. We can pass to another slide. So this is mashing. So nowadays mostly brewers use 100% of barley, and but in like earlier times people used to use peas, wheat, oats, and other ingredients and other like grains. If in birch and pasvalys, which is we like the strong ales, so we use sugar, but sugar we use not for increasing the ABV, the alcohol, but lowering the body. We say that we put sugar to lower the body, because we can't drink if the beer is without sugar. It's like the ham. You can eat it. So we lowering the body with the sugar. So in some occasions where it's 100% of wheat, we were to brew 100% of wheat beers, like for some festivals, Harvest Fest and so on. Some brewers also use to dry malt in saunas. So some of these beers are from the smoked malt, and they have very intensive smoke taste. Also, there is beers of up to 100% of rye. It's usually this Captinas beer, and like other malt mixtures, as we were talking about. We talked about malt bills in previous session. So people used to use not the best grains, and so we mixed the grains for the beers. If we can pass to the other slide. So this is what we have still survived mashing styles or techniques in Lithuania. So just simple infusion mashing, which is, I think, mostly used. And another is infusion mashing with hot stones introduced. Some brewers use hot iron to increase temperatures. So these hot stones are used to increase the temperature before Lautering after the main mashing, we're increasing the temperature nowadays. And the last, which is most interesting, is baking the mash breads in the oven. So it's Captinas beer. Today we will taste two of these mashing styles. One would be like Akmenines stone mashing, and the last one would be Captinas mashed in the oven. So the next slide, how the brewery looks like. So it's this is famous Simonas brewer, and he always brews his beer in sauna. So this is sauna. It looks a bit like such a black because this is like sauna without chimney. So it's all the fumes are going inside. So first, what the brewer is doing is just crushing the malt, mixing with the boiling water, almost the boiling water, and the temperature is strange, but it's measuring with fingers. So it's by sticking the finger into the mash and telling, oh, it's good, or we need to increase to add more water, or someone. So we don't use usually any thermometers for mashing. Next slide. So it's just you can see these 2 watts. One is this mashing tun. So he is covering now it, and will wait for 6 hours for all the mash process to complete. And this is why so long, because the people have many, so they are busy in the farms, so we do other things in the countryside. For example, feeding the cows or animals. So the brewing process is just always it's combining with other works. So the brewer. So that is why the mashing process is so long. And another slide. Yeah, it's depending on the mashing style. So after the main process mashing completes, for example, some people to increase the temperature of the mash, we hot stones or iron. So it's how it looks, the stone in the mash. So another slide. And if it's Captinas beer, so the brewer puts the thick part of the mash to the oven. Nowadays we use like metal forms for to put the mash in it and bake. In previous time we just mixed the mash with the straw and formed such a loaves and then bake. Another slide. So this is like how the traditional oven looks like, and its oven temperature varies from 340 400 degrees. And yep, another slide. That is the baked bread looks. So that mash breads are baked for 3-4 hours. Then it becomes brown and toasty. Crush is formed on the top. Yep. Yeah, another. So this is how the hop garden looks in brewers. Yeah. Most of the brewers are growing their own hops, and this is how the hop yard looks in this. So the people are growing their own hops and using for making beer these hops. And another slide. So this is how the hop tea is boiled. So some brewers brew several hop teas. For example, one is for bittering, another is for aroma. So one hop tea ton is boiled for 1 hour, and hour is for 15 minutes. And people are just have their own quantities of the hops they use for the beer. It depends on the harvest and the bitterness of the hops. So it's usually 201 kilo local hops per 50 kilos of a malt. And last slide. Yeah, so as I was talking about, this hop tea is boiled for 30 minutes up to 2 hours, depends on brewer. Yep. So the hop tea, so the liquid part is separate from solid part, and this liquid part is used for mixing it with the wort, and the liquid part is used for like lautering the wort through these hops. And next slide. Oops. Yep. So this is how the lautering looks like. The brewer controls the all the flow of this wort with this stick. If in the next slide, I think it will be. Okay. this stick is used for controlling the wort flow, so it can push it up more, and the wort will be, the flow would be strong, higher. So yeah, and the filter bed, how you need to prepare the filter bed before. So the filter in the Lautering is the base of a filter is made from the wooden sticks, and to be like the layer works as basement of all filter and holds the heavy mash. And the other slide we'll see. So another slide we see is how the sticky, which is called the vole, is prepared. It is like wrapped with the straws, and it's like the straws are the main filter, and some brewers are using like linen, and others can use juniper branches for making such a filter. Some in the previous session we also heard about raspberry stems, and even pea stems are used for filter. And next slide. Yeah, it's when this mash is prepared, the brewer transfers the mash to the Lautering. And next slide. Yeah, it's the same slide. The brewer is now Lautering the wort and controlling the wort stream by lifting the stick up and down. Next slide. Yes. So he uses the wort as like it decides what strong the beer should be, and it's according to this he adds more water, boiling water on it. And next. So this is how the brewer tastes and measures the OG of the wort. So it's measured always by tasting it. And if the wort is not sweet enough, so some brewers add sugar or honey to the wort. Yeah, it's fermentation. This is the famous Simonas yeast in this jar. If we go to the next slide, we will see the process. Yes. So, as I told, the mash tun is used for fermentation, and this fermentation starts very vigorously, and I think, as I remember this, how it looked like it was about 40 minutes after we pitch the yeast. So it's very, very, very vigorous fermentation. And next slide. Yes, we have a tradition. On the contrary to the Norwegians, we are not shouting when we put the yeast. We are whispering the prayer for the yeast. And all the brewers have a different different praise, and it's very quiet and like intimate like process of the brewing. Next slide. Yeah, it's so the yeast starts to work. So how it looks like the fermentation, it's very, very intensive and vigorous. And next slide. Yeah, so these are two watts for fermentation. So in most of the brewers are brewing always two beers 1 week and one strong. And after when the fermentation is ending, in the casking process we can mix the wort and make more like different beers, in different strength beers. It depends for if we brew for someone, we know what beer he likes. So we're mixing these two different beers and then casking. So yeah, and this is like testing if the fermentation is ended, if this match is we put the burning match on the top of the on the fermentation vat, and we see if the match is still burning, so the fermentation is over, and if it's it's gone the fire, so it's still fermenting. So this is one of the ways how to check if the fermentation is going on and it's ready to cask the beer. And the next slide, yeah. So this is how the barrels are prepared. So it's just we clean with the hot water. We always use these barrels in a basement, and when we empty the barrel, we drink all the beer, we put a bit sugar in it and stick it and keep it before the next brew. And in the brew day, we just untap it and clean it. And this is the process when the brewer cleans it with the hot water. Yeah, so this is the casking day, and the first what the brewer will do, it will crop the yeast from the top of the brew of the fermentation, and this yeast will keep for the next batch, and yep, and also this casking day is very. It becomes sometimes like a festival, because brewer always invites the neighbors to this process, and just all these men which we came to this process to cask, we are checking the beer, and we have the opinion: is it already finished, or we need to ferment it more? And yeah, after the fermentation, the brewer just tastes the beer, and if it's still not so bitter, he can add this hop tea, and that's so. This is like brew a cask beer. So as I told you in earlier, the brewer can mix the words, different words, weak and strong one. So we can make a lot of different beers, and adding to this cask more weak beer or more strong beer, and even we can make it different in bitterness. So adding more hop tea will provide more bitterness. So some brewers, for example, Smith Simonas, when he brews, he always knows what of this the women don't like the bitter beer, so we will make he will mix more weak beer with some strong, and would not add hop tea to this. If it makes for some neighbor, he knows he likes very bitter beer, so he adds more hop tea to this. So blending hop tea and different worts make it's possibility to make different beers in the taste. Yep, and this is how the people drink. So we pour the the beer to the jar, and then it brings to the table. So it's like such a simple review of the brewing process of Lithuanian Farmhouse ale.
Okay, I think that was fascinating. Let me see, before we go on to I'm still echoing someone. Before we go on to maybe talk about the beers themselves, does anybody have any questions coming out of that? There was a lot in it.
Hi, Simonas. Hi, Richard here from Black Donkey Brewing in Ireland. Just curious, in between brews, how is the yeast stored and kept alive? Just in a jam jar, it doesn't look like it's going to stay alive for very long. Is there refrigeration or something used to store yeast?
Actually, the yeast are stored. There is different way how to store the yeast, but mostly we pick it from the neighbor who is also brewing, and these yeast are always passing to the neighbors, and you always will have fresh yeast, and we keep it in a refrigerator or in the well. In previous time, it was stored in the well, and in these districts where the brews are not so often, we use to dry it, to mix. There is some descriptions of it. We use linen, and we put the linen in the yeast, and then took it out and then dry it, and then this linen put it to the fermentation, to the wort when we need. But the yeast are stored just for week or several or 2 weeks, because all the neighbors are also brewing, so we are sharing the yeast. So that is why we have this yeast survived.
Right.
And actually, there's a question here. Dean has. Do you know the pitch rate he uses for the yeast?
So as you saw this jar, so it's like 1 liter for 100 liters of a beer. So it's something like that. But we don't have such a idea how. We don't know. We don't measure it. We just put it and see if it starts. If not, we put another spoon, and it's always just we have it
I think that came across as well last week. Is that Lars was saying, like, there's no thermometers, there's no hydrometers. It's all just rule of use your fingers, and so everything's just kind of just experience.
Yeah, there was such a I have read and about one like automation of the pitching yeast in the to the wort. We just hanged the jar with the wort on this like in such like degree, and the wort was in the jar, and we put the yeast, and the yeast were growing and floating down to the main wort. So this was like automatic pitching. So because it is high temperatures, and people are they avoid to pitch, they mostly underpitch, because we avoid to wort to be boiling from this huge amount of the yeast. In Lithuania we call, you spoiled the beer, you boiled it with the yeast, because you put too much yeast and it started to be like too vigorous, and the temperatures are increasing, and it ends with like the beer is like looks like it's boiling.
Yeah. Anybody else? I just wanted to ask about, because someone commented there, blending. That was interesting. That all the beers, the farmhouse beers, they'd actually take a whole range, and then after fermentation, they'd mix the beers depending on who they're giving it to or what the occasion was.
Yeah, it's this beer is like still fermenting. By casking the beers, it's when some like some sugars are still in it, and they do it for the reason because these beers are made for mostly for festivals or for gatherings, big gatherings, and they mix these beers because they know that they are different people, and they drink different beers. So they can mix one cask of weak beer, one strong, one and something in the middle, the bitter one, and so on. So it was also strange for me when I found out this, what we are doing.
Nice.
Also, we can do it like one beer. It would be like you can drink it daily, and one would be very strong, would be for some special occasion. And so.
So I'll just go through two other questions that are here, and then maybe we'll go on to the tasting. Why is sugar added to the empty casks? Mark wants to know.
This is because to keep pressure in it, and to get rid of oxygen. We don't clean the casks before next brew, because you can spoil it if you will clean it with water. So the oxygen will be still in this barrels, and it can ruin it, and some bacteria get inside, and so on. So okay. we just put some sugar, and it helps to get rid of this oxygen and to get it under pressure.
Okay. Just sorry, there's another one in here as well. Do you dry hop at all, or is it just the hop tea, typically?
This is just hop tea, most because I have heard about this dry hopping, and mostly brewer says what this is like. You will get the headache next day if you dry hop it. So, but yeah, maybe some brewers dry hop it, but I actually I haven't met such a brew and haven't read anywhere about this.
Okay.
So mostly it's just a hop tea.
Okay. So just I think that's okay. So just one more question from the audience again from Brendan. And is the beer clear or murky?
It depends on the beer. If it's for example, Captinas beer and stone brew beer, they are more clear because of these processes, because the proteins degrades in such a temperatures. So it's more clear, but most of these beers, they are a bit cloudy.
Okay. Okay, anybody else there wants to ask anything before we go on to maybe the exciting part of the day? Or the extra exciting part of the day?
Yep.
Morris here from Kvass Brewery. Yeah, I think it's interesting, the blending, because in the old records of British brewing, that's what they would have one big mash, and they would take off the first wort and the second wort and the third wort, and then they would blend it depending what type of beer they were doing. So it's quite a similar process, nearly in a different setting.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason also was that with the ingredients that people used in the old days, it wasn't necessarily predictable what result you were going to get, and so by blending afterwards, you could sort of adjust. It's different when you're using industrial malts and when you were making them yourself, and also when the quality depended on the weather that summer.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so who wants to? Do you think it's time to move on to trying one of the beers?
I don't know. It's depends on you. You will have a beers.
Who wants to try them?
Yeah.
Why not?
I have some work involving a circular saw later this afternoon, so I think I'm going to restrict myself to one.
Okay, so this is a lager, is it, Simonas?
Yeah. So the first beer is number 31. It's called. The name is 31 because of we are brewing every year the beer for Lithuanian independence. So it's 31st birthday of Lithuania. And actually, this brew we decided to make in such a bit interesting way. We decided to brew how many commercial farmhouse brewers are brewing the beer. They using the lager yeast, and they actually do not control the lager temperatures, and they allow to raise the temperatures because they don't control it. The temperatures are rising, and it becomes very like ale. Actually, this beer is such a back view of the Lithuanian brewing scene, and it's like very first commercial brewers were made brewing the beers. And actually, also it is infused with the birch leaves, and because of this is like interpretation of because many farmhouse brewers use the birch to clean the vats, and some intensively puts this birch to the mash, and it gets a bit birch flavor, so you can taste it and you can feel it. Lars is drinking the water. So,
Leon's opinion?
already tasted it?
Yeah, the nose on it is super fruity. I can't put my name on it. I'm almost thinking like rhubarb. There's a fruity note of it that's lovely as soon as I open the bottle. And it's got a nice dry finish.
Yeah. So how we made this beer? So it was the day before the main brew day. We just mixed the birch leaves with the mashing water, and then we used it for mashing. And so this taste is from the birch leaves, which we used for this mashing water.
And what weight of birch leaves per liter? How many grams per liter?
It also, we as a farmhouse brewers, we didn't measure it. So just we put the bunch of the birch and leave it for a night. So it's.
And then this is mashed using what technique? This is no boil, presumably. This is still raw.
No. It's this all the beers we brew in our brewery. We actually need to boil because it doesn't keep good if you won't boil it, and it's not good for shelf time. So we boil it, but some of these beers are. We will have a next one, so it will be boiled just for 5 minutes to not to boil all this like systematic like time 60 minutes or 90 minutes, but it's just boiled for 5 minutes to get rid of proteins because we are not good for shelf time.
Is that that's obviously a compromise you're doing? Because I remember last week you said that since COVID happened that you've had to adapt because you're not selling through bars as much, you're selling to supermarkets and you've had to adapt pasteurizations and stuff. Is this part of that adaptation, or were you?
This is like, it's like this is our adaptation, and actually we never say what we brew the real farmhouse beer because I don't think you can make commercial brew. You can't compare it to any real non-commercial brews because all these beers and commercial farmhouse we have some optimizations to have better shelf time or better view of some of the brewers. We commercial brewers we don't boil the wort, but we use some filters to clear the beer after this. So it's if you want, as I told in previous session, if you want to taste a real farmhouse ale, so you need to go directly to the brewery of these farmhouse brewers or to the countryside and to get it from the non-commercial brewer.
The steep, is it a hot steep of the birch leaves or is it a cold steep of the birch leaves?
It is like we did like a green tea, so we use it in 70 Celsius. We step it.
And overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives lovely aroma. It's really, that's lovely.
And is that temperature kept constant overnight, or is it just starts?
No. We just left it, and it wasn't controlled. Actually, you don't need to leave it for a night. I think it's the same result you will get by stepping for 2 hours or 1 hour, it will be the same. We just saving our time, so we just left it for the night, not to wait.
And just clear, that is an attempt. It's not that that's what people were doing the time. This is an attempt, kind of influence, that they were using the birch as the filter, is it? And this mimicking a bit, or
actually the birch is, and also people think about the birch as antiseptic, plant, and the same as a juniper. In Norway, they use the juniper tea for brewing. So in Lithuania, the birch tea is used mostly for this, like, antiseptic reasons, and we use to clean the vats. Also, we, as I saw many farmhouse brewers, we put and leave it in this mashing water, just to make it hot, like this we use the same water for the cleaning, and we clean. We step this birch how it whisks in this brewing water, and after we clean it, because we get the hot from this and clean all the vats. So it's the idea of the brewing. It was from this, like, tradition or something like it.
That seems to be kind of typical. In Norway, it's the same. You clean with juniper infusion first, and then you use it in the beer. And some places in Denmark, they cleaned with wormwood infusion, and then they also used wormwood in the beer. So this using the cleaning agent in the beer itself seems to be.
So we will have a last beer with Captinas, so you will feel the wormwood in this beer. So also wormwood will be included in the beers.
So the birch in this, it's just birch leaves, no bark, no wood. You just take the leaves off the sticks and put them in.
No, we put it with the sticks. We put the birch whisks, because it's very it's much easier to collect these birch leaves with all this wood. You just cut some part of this birch, and then you collect all this leaves. So we use it, like, we put the whisks in the water.
Well, whatever it is, I don't think I've ever tasted birch before, but your use of it is much better than Budweiser's use of it.
And as I told about the fermentation, it's a lager yeast. We pitched it in like 12 Celsius, and we allowed to raise it up to 20 Celsius. So it's actually many commercial farmhouse brewers are doing that, and they use the lager yeast, and because they have any fermentation control system of the, so we leave and allow to temperatures to raise. So that is why some people who are trying the Lithuanian farmhouse beers, we think that they are all the ales, but not all of these beers are ales. Some of these are lagers fermented in such a way.
Yeah.
And did you have to make any changes to the brew? Sorry, Richard. Did you have to make any changes to the brewing process or brewery layout?
Sorry, I haven't heard you.
Sorry, Richard, you go ahead.
I was just going to ask, is this force carbonated before packaging, or is it re-fermented in the bottle?
This one is force carbonated. It's a bit. the brighting tank was used to carbonate it.
Christina, what do you think?
I think it's really lovely. Like Richard said, I get a lot originally on the aroma and the nose. It's really quite fruity, and that kind of follows through, I think, with the flavor. And I think it's really nice. And I've never had birch before myself, so I'm really, really enjoying it.
Mm.
Is birch sap ever used as a fermentable?
Yes. The birch sap is the source of the good water, because in this northern region in Lithuania, all the water is very hard. So the birch sap is one of the sources of soft water. And actually, we also brew the beers. The beer will be released next week with a birch sap. So yeah, it was, even the snow was melted to get the soft water. So people were using the snow
right.
for this reason.
So was traditional farmhouse brewing, was it very seasonal, or did it go on all year long?
Yeah, it is very artistic. You can all the brewers making the beers from the sources which were nearby by hand. So we use snow, we use birch sap, or we can use our ingredients which are by hand. So that is why farmhouse brewers like artists.
And none of this wasn't done in wooden equipment.
This one not this, because we used to brew it like modern Lithuanian farmhouse lager or something like this. It sounds strange, but this is we want to make modern Lithuanian style beers. So this is one of these which has some it's just correct, inspired by Lithuanian farmhouse brewing, but not real farmhouse brew. So next two of the beers would be real. We call it real, but the one future we boil it, so it's not a real, because real is not boiled. But all the mashing techniques are where we do it in wooden casks, vats, and we used to use hop tea and so on, all the traditional. So we can go to this next this beer, Mocomucus. This is stone brew, and actually it's I think one of the beers which are brewed from all the Lithuanian ingredients. So this is malt is from local maltster. The hops are also Lithuanian, so it's a bit more. The taste is very raw, and we introduce the hot stones in the mash, and I think you will feel some minerals of the stones in the taste. So actually, this brew is brewing session. The brew of this beer is like meditation for us. We gather all the brewers and making this beer, because it consumes a lot of physical work, and you need to make a big fire inside our brewery yard, and we have like huge wooden vats. Maybe I will try to upload the presentation. I don't know if it will work again. I don't know.
Okay.
Yes. Maybe the internet is slow in my country.
I thought Lithuania had the fastest one in Europe, last I heard.
Yeah, but I am in the corner of Lithuania, so it's like near Belarus. Yep, I think it won't work, but yeah, we use all these technique very similar to this farmhouse brewers and just one like feature separates it because it's boiled for 5 minutes.
If that's not working uploading, if you want to try, you can do the share screen and pick your
okay. I can
pick the application. That might work. I'm not sure how well it works, but
okay, I will try. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So while you're just doing that, the Simonas yeast that you mentioned and that Lars mentioned last week, is that or a variation of that? Is it now commercially available, or does he still keep it very, very tight?
So, yeah, actually, this beer is we used the Simonas yeast with this, but actually, this is commercial yeast, which is like cleaned without any bacteria and not like. The Lars could explain the yeast are not the like.
Yeah, there's many strains in the original culture, but in the commercial ones, there's only one strain that they've picked out.
Okay.
Yep. So this is such a yeast, and actually it could not. They perform a bit different, but yep, it's very vigorous fermentation. It's in 35. We use 32 degrees to ferment this beer. So I
know
I would like to hear some opinions.
Just on the lager, the first one, you said you didn't control the yeast, or you didn't control the fermentation temperature. Do you know what it peaked at? What your pitch temperature and your peak temperature were?
We were in the first. Like beer, we just allowed to raise the temperature to 20 degrees, and then we started to control to avoid the mistakes. But for this beer, we used to pitch it 32 and allowed to raise it to pitch it at 30 and allowed to raise it to 32. So that fermentation temperatures are such a from 30 to 32. Oops.
Oh, it looks good.
You can see me. Yeah.
Yeah, we can see. I thought maybe the thing had uploaded. So, so the second one, Christina, what's your opinion?
So I on the initial aroma, I got actually some hints of like raisins and some kind of like dark fruits, and then drinking it, it's quite smoky and in like a lovely way with like a little bit of sweetness to it as well. I'm really enjoying it. But yes, quite smoky, which I guess you get from, of course, the stones and that technique. But really interesting, quite good. I like this.
Yeah, it's the taste is very rustic, and the stones actually also you can get more smoky taste or less smoky taste. It depends on the stones, how hot the stone is. If the stone is like in red hot, like the color of the stone is red when you heat it, so you can get more smoky taste. When it is white, it means it's more hot, so you will get more caramel. And yes, and actually this beer is made just from simple Lithuanian malt, like Pilsner malt, and no other malt, such a caramel malt, is no added. This color and taste is of the malt is from this caramelization and of the hot stones.
And so you, let me follow that the process. So you just mash the malt, you put in the hot stones to heat it up, and then went from there.
Yep. First, we infuse the mash with the malt with hot water, and later we put the hot stones in it, and also you can vary it with the taste if you want to more smoky, so you can make a mash more thick, and then the caramelization is more. You can get more caramelization from it. If you will have a more liquid mash, so it will be like lighter in color and so on. So always we get the different. You never can repeat this in the same, completely the same result. So this beer is always different. All the like batches.
And do you have any thing on the number of stones or the size of the stones, or use the same ones every time, or how do and brewers, old brewers, we just take the fist, like such a stones in such a hut, and also you need to put as much stones as you can see. The temperature is raised to that Lautering temperature, and actually it depends on the brewer. So that is strange, but also people call it the same as the oven beer. We call it Captinas because we think we also baking the mash on the same way, the stones.
And also the stones heated in a wood fire?
Yeah, we just make a wood fire outside in brewery yard, and we put all these stones.
And is it just experience that tells you the right stones that aren't going to explode when you heat them or shatter when you put them in the liquid or that? There's got to be a risk with stones.
Yeah,
boom.
Yeah, it happens, but so in the modern brewery, it's you need to you can complete with your broken pump, because some small parts of the stones can get into that pump. But yeah, we have already we're brewing it for 6 years or 7 years, and we already have found out the techniques how to avoid these broken stones. But they could explode and crash.
And that's what I think Lars was saying last week, that there's like piles of broken stones are common across Northern Europe.
Yes, there's there are a lot of finds like that because as you reuse them, eventually they shatter, no matter what kind of stone it is.
Yeah, and I know Mortis has an interest in that.
Yeah, but I think the Norwegians, I don't know, maybe, but they used to mostly we use the stones to heat the water, but not the mash. It's the difference.
No, I don't know of. I've never ever found a description of anyone using the stones to heat the water. So every single description from Russia and Austria and Belarus and Estonia and Norway, it's always the stones and the mash.
Ah, okay.
I don't know that nobody used it in the water, but I've never seen a description of it.
Iceland would be the place to go and just direct a little lava stream right into the mash tun. That'd be perfect.
They stopped growing grain around the year 1000 because of erosion.
Yeah.
So they have the heating, but they don't have any malt.
Mortis, did you try this one yet?
Did I what?
No. Lars and Morris Moss. I think you get confused. I was talking to Moss there from Canvas. If you tried this one yet, but he's kind of gone faded on us. Actually, I found out about a week ago that there is one brewery in Ireland making raw ales. I only found out last week. Otherwise, I could have tried to get him along.
Who's that?
Otterbank.
Oh, is it?
Up in Donegal. I haven't tried him. Don't know anything, but Declan. It's from he's the brewer in Yellow Belly, and he's Otterbank up there. So turns out he's doing some raw ales.
I didn't know that either.
Well, and this whole thing reminds me of so there's an archaeology group called the Moore Group, and they did an experimental project, Kvass Brewing, where they brewed with hot stones to sort of recreate ancient Irish ales. And this all just sort of reminds me of that, and it's really cool to kind of taste something that might be quite similar.
Yeah, the difference, I suppose, on this is, again, I keep going back to Lars' book, but the difference between trying to recreate something versus, like in Lithuania, it's still alive. Whereas if you're trying to recreate, you've no idea what you're trying to recreate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So actually, this tradition to put the stones and it's now it's some brewers put the iron. So I think it's still alive in Latvia for some, Latgalia. The Lars also, I think he knows the brewer.
Yeah, it's also alive in Russia, Vologda Oblast in the far eastern end. It's also still alive, and in Belarus. But I think and in Finland. In Finland, there's actually a commercial brewer who grew up in the stone brewing tradition. He's selling commercial stone beer. But in Norway it's dead, and in Denmark it's dead, and in Sweden they actually the Ethnographic Institute managed to get one description of stone brewing, and there was a historian who got so interested he went there and he wanted to talk to the sources, but it turned out they were dead, and when they toured the district they found nobody else who knew anything about it, so he was a few years too late, unfortunately. And this was in the 1940s.
I see some Charles here is saying that in Tennessee there's one Bosco's Beer, and they do a stone technique. They do the hot stone as well, which I didn't know about. So it hasn't quite fully died out yet, even outside Lithuania.
Yep. So I don't know. We have beer. This like Captinas beer, the oven beer that the Lars can't taste. So this beer, if you have already opened it, so as I told you in previous session, that we used just about 50% of the baked mash in this beer, course, it's very hard to bake all the mash, and because it's really not all the bakeries have such ovens. So we have for one batch we have 200 kilos of the malt. So we bake 100 kilos of the malt in an oven, not a malt but the mash. So how do? We mash it in a wooden vats, and then we leave it for maybe 2 hours, because for the baked beer you need to the malt to soak with the water very well, and it increase the caramelization of this. If you will be very fast and you will just mash for half an hour or so on, so you will have more burnt taste, not that caramel. And so we, after the mash, we put the mash in such a metal pans and bring it to the bakery, which is nearby our brewery, and we bake it in this we bake these breads, and we bring it to our brewery and put it to the Lautering. So also we use some wormwood in this beer, so you can feel in the taste such a strange bitterness. So it's because also it was tradition in Captinas region to put wormwood. So you can, if anyone can feel this wormwood taste.
Anyone taste the wormwood? Or would you recognize wormwood?
Is there hop tea added to this one as well, Simonas?
Yes, hop tea. This is also brewed the traditional way, except we boiled it. But we add the hop tea at the end of the boil. We boil it without, just a little bit of hops we add in the boil process, and then we mix. After the boiling, we mix with hop tea, and the bitterness is a bit different.
So when
also
when the mash loaf comes back from
sorry,
fairly dry at that point. When the mash comes back from the bakery,
yep,
and you put it in the Lautering, presumably it's quite dried then. So do you break it up and then you add sparge water to it essentially?
Yep. We also have we are mashing the rest of the malt, and then we transfer it to the Lautering, and then we put this crushed the breads. So we mix this the rest of the mash. But actually, many brewers in countryside they leave some mash not baked, because I think it's also useful to, but the rest of enzymes we still working, and we can get these different sugars from even from a baked bread. So the mixing with the not baked mash with a baked mash is we use so often because all these ovens are very not so large to bake all the mash. But yep, traditionally it's like we leave some just 20% of the mash unbaked. But we can't do it because we have not our bakery can't bake such amount of the breads. So we use like 50% of this mash baked.
And the shape of the baking tins is important. Is it the dimensions?
Yeah,
correctly.
It should be not flat. It should be like 10 minimum 15 or 10 centimeters in high. So you need to have like not a flat pan because you will burn it and not you won't get a caramelization in it. So you need a quite high pan for this. And also you need the thickness of the mash is very important because if you will have very thick mash, you will burn it. And if you have too liquid, all the mash will run off the pans and the bakery will be very angry on us because we will clean maybe 2 days with ovens.
Yeah, I saw pictures again from Lars. You had pictures of your attempts to do it at home.
Yeah, that was horrendous, but it was too high temperature. I was experimenting with the temperatures to see how to get the caramelization and get all the water out, and the sugary liquid that ran over, that was, oh my god, I had to give up on that pan in the end.
Yep. So actually, what is in Lithuania with all these stone ovens? What the difference is with comparing with electric ovens? Because when you bake in electric oven, you always keep the constant temperature, and in this traditional ovens, the temperature is slightly dropping down, but not so fast. So it's very hard to bake it in electric oven. And the bakery which bakes for us these breads, we have electric ovens, but the walls of the oven are from the stone. So we behave very similar to these traditional ovens. So we start to at the similar temperatures at 280, 300, and we turn off these ovens, and the temperature is slightly falling down. So many homebrewers we have these mistakes, or not mistakes, just we have such ovens, and we leave these temperatures constant, and we burn out this mash.
So how about Moss? How does this differ from any other beers you've tasted, or is it what can you spot similar or different? Anyone?
No, I'm saving mine for later.
Christina, what?
Well, yeah, it's quite bready, which I like, which you kind of expect, wouldn't you? With some nice malty sweetness in there. trying to think of what it could be compared to. Nothing is coming to mind like off the top of my head, but it's really like nice and bready with like a little hint of sweetness. It's quite lovely.
I just forget to say what is 1/3 of this mash bill is rye, so it's a lot of rye in it. So it has rye taste also.
You can definitely get that now that I know that. There's that little bit of sharpness, that little bit that comes from rye. Actually, I made a malt tonic last year with a very similar technique where it was just a basic Pilsner malt, and then with rye as well. And it was similar because you had to bake it in the oven first, and you got a really bready texture, but differently from this in that it was flat. So they wanted you to make almost like a cracker-like, cookie-like texture, quite thin, and you'd break it apart, and then you'd all those like biscuit, right, basically, and just chuck that in, and then boiled it again. And so, yeah, definitely quite bready. It's kind of flavors that I got to that, but that might just simply because it's the rye and a bit baked with caramel notes. But yeah, quite interesting.
Yep.
Moss is coming and going there. I just wondering what he thought of it. It's coming in and out.
Back.
Yeah.
It's beautiful in there. Really good. In my head, my first thought is, what is 100% here like? Will it be even further caramel? And the other thought I had was, what's the origin of red ale?
Sorry, you broke up on us there.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming back again. Yeah, you kind of broke up on us there just for a second.
Yeah, but my thought was I'd love to taste 100% Captinas, as in with 100% baked. Would the caramel really come true? And my other random thought was, I wonder where the origin of the Irish red ale stems from. As in, was there techniques of similar thing at some stage in Ireland prehistory?
It could be.
Could be stones, I guess.
It could be also the stones, but you won't get with such a color from the stones. You need a lot of stones.
Okay. Okay, so anyone else have a comment on it or anything else on the specifics of the beer? So this was mashed. Yeah, so you took this, it's in wooden stuff, you did 55%, I think you said, was baked, and was it 55%?
50% of this malt bill is baked, 50% like unbaked. So the color and everything this is like clean Pilsner malt and rye malt. And all the color.
They were mixed before you kind of separated them to be baked, or?
Yeah, we bake all the rye and just a bit of like barley. We don't use the rye in unbaked part, so all the rye is baked. And here is about, I think it's 50 kilos of the rye, and so 50 kilos of the barley is going for this baked part, and the rest 100 of the barley Pilsner malt it's unbaked part.
I'm curious.
The
next step. Traditional distillation in Lithuania, were the same or similar techniques used to prepare a wort or a wash that was going to go on to make some sort of spirit, or was distillation and beer brewing two completely separate enterprises?
Yeah, it's completely separate because to distill is we have not so many distillers, only the huge ones, and the small ones is not legal, but we used to boil the rye in a huge vats, and then we put the yeast in all the mash, and then we distill this.
Right.
So it's we don't bake it, but we boil the rye.
And rye is a typical grain used for distillation in Lithuania?
Yep, it's typical. It's like if you, it's like if you want to get real stuff, so you need to search for the rye. So mostly, and it's very bready taste, and these spirits are very bready.
Right.
I'm going to just jump in here because we have a question about would it be possible to import some of these to Ireland for people to try? Well, I checked because Dundulis, you can order these beers directly from their website, Dundulis LT. They'll ship them directly to you.
Yeah, but if to Ireland, it takes some time to ship it.
Well, that's only because they get lost in Germany, but
yeah. Germans inspected it for 6 days, I think.
I don't know. Anyway, never mind. But you can get them. You can order them on their website. But I don't know if there's anyone importing them directly as that volume.
No. No, we don't export these beers because I think it's that. But we can do it, but still it's very, very hard process and consuming a lot of time, and we are not ready to export in great quantities. But in small we could make it. We can make it.
Yeah. So are you one of the, what's the situation in Lithuania now with regards to commercial farmhouse breweries? Are you one of the, how many besides yourself are actually doing close to, apart from the real countryside ones, there's then the ones that are kind of commercial like yourselves. Are there any breweries that are kind of doing what you're doing?
I don't think we do these stone beers and even baked. We have one brewer in the countryside, this commercial cheeses, who makes the baked ale as he thinks, but he actually the Captinas beers, we have different meanings in different places of Lithuania. So actually, cheeses, the brewer, this commercial brewer cheeses, he actually bakes the grains, not a mash in a oven. So this is his version of Captinas, and other commercial brewers, we mostly use infusion mashing, and because it takes too much time and too much efforts to on such a commercial scale to make beers with the hot stones. So we have 6 brewers at that brewing session. It's not real commercial thing, but it's a station for us. We just brewing to enjoying this process, and we do it just 4 times in a year. For example, the stone brew, because it's in every spring, every summer, autumn, and winter. So it's like some more our small tradition of our breweries.
And so, like, I guess coming around to just a broader thing, like, where's it going to go from here? You know, I mean, if you look at it, I was thinking about this during the week. You know, anybody who's been to Lithuania, you know, it's very proud of traditions and history, and the food is still, you can get traditional food everywhere. And for any Irish people here, they do things with potatoes that nobody's ever imagined. But, you know, if the beer's dying out, is there any kind of identification in the government that, you know, this is a unique culture worth preserving, and that, you know, to try and get beer tourism, and that would regenerate the countryside where people are leaving? And is there any kind of recognition of that?
Actually, sadly, but for last years we have very crazy government in Lithuania, which were just sobers, and we were trying to increase the taxes and to do everything to get rid of the alcohol in even so. This increasing of the taxes influenced and on the bad side to the this farmhouse brewers, commercial farmhouse brewers, and we are not very competitive in this scene, commercial scene, and many craft brewers now are taking the all the, like, we are getting growing. Craft brewers are growing on this farmhouse brewers at that side, so we are a bit dying. But there is real commercial farmhouse brewers who are still alive, and I think that is why we are doing very good farmhouse brew, such a breweries like Suputa and Paliūniškės with Čižas, also Jovaru, which is famous for yeast, also the brewer from Panevėžys, Pinevos Alutis. So these brewers are very good in good shape, and we are still brewing the good beers. But we have now new government, and we are doing everything to make better space for the brewers. And I think in next 2 months we will work on this. We have founded such a organization of small brewers, and invited also farmhouse brewers to join this, and we will work on this. So I think this tradition will survive. But yep, and in these non-commercial brewers are very, very now like renaissance of these non-commercial brewers. People are making more and more this traditional farmhouse beers in the side, in the countryside, because the taxes were increased, and we just for practical reason we are thinking that I will better to make my beer, my own beer, and not to buy from the shop because it's too expensive for me. And that's this farmhouse brewers in countryside, the renaissance of these brewers now is in Lithuania.
So they intended to drive beer out, and they had the opposite effect.
Yep. But they do the opposite effect. But sadly for these commercial farmhouse brewers, the impact was not good. But yeah, because even we wanted to forbid to sell the beers in the like festivals, So it's very crazy idea. We had very crazy government last 4 years.
Yeah, because I don't know. I was just thinking, like I said during the week, you'd think there's a huge amount of EU money waiting there just to kind of come in to promote the tourism and regenerate the countryside, and it sounds like and its culture, a unique culture. It sounds like something the EU would just be throwing money at if you come to them.
Yeah, but as I told, we had such a government, and we just positioned it as Lithuanians as a largest drunkards in Europe, and always showed the tables that we are on the first place consuming alcohol. So that was like one of the tricks we used in politics, and so we have this tricks made very bad situation now in Lithuania.
Okay. Does anyone have any comments on the beers? Any last comments or anything? Because I suppose we'll have to let people go soon. On anything you heard, anything, the beers themselves? Any questions on the techniques again?
No, I could just say for my part that Lithuania has gone way up on my list of places to visit, largely because of its brewing heritage. I'd love to go over that in person and experience it firsthand. But it sounds to me a bit reminiscent of what's going on or what has gone on here in terms of government selling out indigenous industry to macro manufacturers, and we're probably too late. We're trying like hell to do something about it, but in terms of traditional Irish brewing, that was washed away 200 years ago, and there's virtually no trace of it left. So sincerely hope that Lithuania can maintain its heritage and maintain its traditions, because once it's gone, it's very, very hard to get it back. So,
yeah.
Power to the brewer.
Yep.
Well, hopefully, like little things like this will help at least raise awareness. I mean, I had 3 things down here. I was saying that if we manage these 3 things, we wouldn't be doing too bad. And one is that people were interested and they can go off and buy Lars's book. The other one was then, like I said, Dundulis, you can buy the beers. So you can go out now and just go and order today. Go to dundulis.lt and order some and see what makes them different. And then the last thing was, maybe people will go to Lithuania and try it out. There is, what is it, Vilnius in love.com do beer tours. And, they seem to be the only ones who are doing it, but maybe someone will, maybe it can, if people start going there, more tours can open up in that, because, well, it's a country worth visiting anyway, even without the beer. Mm-hmm. But, it is a nice country. And like I said, for any Irish people, like there's things they do with potatoes that you won't believe. So,
and I want to say many thanks for you and Lars. Actually, these interests in Lithuanian Farmhouse Brewery very encourages us to make these beers, and even encourages all these small brewers, because I often go into the countryside and I show the Lars book or any other books or any texts to these brewers, and encouraging them to brew in traditional way, and in commercial brewers and non-commercial brewers, and people really enjoying that interest, but people from foreign countries are interested in this, because as you know, I think in all the like Lithuanians, we have very skeptic view of this farmhouse. We think it's not good quality and so on, but when we hear some compliments and from the foreign or tourists, so we encourages themselves to brew.
Yeah, I think it's the same everywhere. I mean, yeah, you kind of don't appreciate what you have until someone else tells you, really, do you?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, just one more question here before we go. If someone's if they can't source Lithuanian malt or hops, what's the closest alternative they can use?
Malt?
Yeah, malt or hops.
Malt, hops?
I think for
Grow
hops,
them themselves
you would probably
use
be
the same?
best off with the normal noble hops, like sauce or something.
Noble hops. Okay. Yep. We use in our brewery we use size hops all the noble hops, any noble hops of continental, Czech or German hops.
Okay. So
and it's better to use it in the leaf form, not pellets, because you will need to boil the hop tea, so the pellets is not good for this. So you need to whole leaf hops.
Okay, so boil that. Okay. Okay. Anybody else have anything? Kind of don't want to leave it go, but everybody's been here a long time, so I suppose we have to let you go at some time.
No? I'd like to say thanks to Simonas and Lars and Brian for putting it together. It's been very, very interesting. It's definitely time well spent. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you for organizing this.
Yes, thank you so much for organizing this. This is wonderful. I've learned so much. So thank you for all of this.
Yeah, no, and I just want to thank Lars and Simonas for donating so much time. Like I said, hopefully we'll get some little bit of interest, and people might go to Lithuania a bit more once we're all traveling again, which I believe is going to be very soon.
I hope.
We all hope. All right. If nobody else has anything, maybe I'll just do it. Next week, we're back to our regular thing. We have this roundtables. Next week we have West Kerry, we have Ballykilcavan, and we have Houghton Dormal from Leuven. So that's it. I want to again thank everybody for giving their time, and for Simonas for shipping beers around customs things and getting all confused. No, it was great of you, and listen, thanks a million. Can't thank you enough, basically.
Yep. Thanks indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.